Hello and welcome to Community Service Spotlight. I'm your host, Bud Qualk, and today we have a very extremely unusual show today. We have two gentlemen. I don't think we've ever had that before. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're here today with Celebrate Recovery. Jonathan Althoff, ministry leader, right?
Yes.
No? And Allen Aycock, Assimilator Coach. Mm-hmm. Well, I've got two questions for you right off the bat.
Bring it.
What's a ministry leader?
A ministry leader is someone who helps run the program, oversee it, make sure things are being done the right way, following the national guidelines, things like that, making sure everything's in place at the right time and place. I don't do it alone. My wife helps me, and I help her, and we do this as a part of a team. I would say she is.
I was going to say, this sounds like the description of a boss or a leader or a manager or a department manager or something. And what is an assimilator coach?
My main purpose is to recruit, to take the message and the tools of the ministry to the public. And I, too, do not do it alone. That is something everybody in our ministry does as well.
Okay, well, what does Celebrate Recovery do? What are your...
Celebrate Recovery is a faith-based program to help people with any kind of struggle they might have. It has been founded in California, and it moved gradually worldwide. So we're not the only one in the business, but we are glad to be a part of helping people's lives get better, restore families, hope, change, and to help people get back on their feet again. And it's exciting.
Well, this is a big group. This is not much the local group, but what services do you provide for?
You name it. Our catch slogan is hurts, habits, and hang-ups. Anything in your life that's a hurt, a habit, or a hang-up, we can help you with. And, that ranges from divorce to grief, to addictions, gambling, sexual addictions, alcohol, drugs, depression.
Lots of counseling?
Yes. It's not so much counseling. One of our guidelines is we're here to support one another, not fix one another. We as humans aren't quite as capable of fixing as we might think we are, but we will support them and teach them how to be still and let God do His job while we do ours.
If you got a problem, you can go to somebody and you'll listen and support them, and you're there for them.
Walk them through the whole process.
And a lot of people don't have anybody they can trust or talk to, or I know that for a fact.
That's one thing we guarantee. When you come in, we just consider you part of the family.
That's right.
And we have all walks come in our doors, everything from doctors and lawyers all the way down to unemployment. And
that's what I was going to say next. Who would benefit?
Anybody with a hurt, habit, or hang-up, and I don't know of many people in this world that don't have them.
A life situation, yeah.
That's right. Unfortunately, in life, not many of us are given the skills early on to deal with those, so we deal with them in an unhealthy manner. And at Celebrate Recovery, we try to teach people to deal with them in a healthy manner. Okay. And one is that you don't have to deal with it alone.
That's right.
There are people that will help you through that process.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Not alone. Not alone.
That's correct.
And a lot of different things. What's your we'll hit the contact information right now, and then we'll hit it again right at the end of the show. Telephone numbers.
Absolutely. You can get a hold of us at our main number, 270-534-1400 or 534-1400. That's Heartland Worship Center's main line, and ask for Christine. That's my wife.
The boss.
She's the boss, if you will. Commonly, they call me Christine's husband around there, but that's because they know that she's the one who's doing a lot of the work behind the scenes and taking care of things. But she's there. If you ask at the switchboard, they'll direct you to her, and you can either leave a message if she's working on something, and she'll get back to you. Her email is christine@heartlandworship.com. Our contact information also, where we're located, is not at Heartland Worship Center. We worship, if you will, or have our program at Faith Center, which is on Hansen Road, just off New Holt Road. If people are familiar with Paducah, that's the main road that goes between Walmart by the mall and Lowe's. And up there, about 2 blocks behind Walmart, is where we are located every Friday.
Oh, okay. And of course, if you've got a phone, you can. The house number was on Hansen Road.
Hansen Road, I believe it's 4325.
Okay.
And we could do a quick rundown. Our program every Friday night, we're consistent.
Yes.
Every Friday night at 6 o'clock we start.
Okay.
The doors will open and there'll be a welcome table right inside of the door with some smiling faces to welcome the newcomers. And generally my wife and I are standing right there. And you know, our program starts at 6 and we're generally out of there by 9:15 or 9:20. We'll have, for our newcomers, they can have a meal and enjoy some praise and worship music. And we have a rotation of bands that come through, anything from Christian rock to one person with a guitar. I mean, we might have 10 people on stage singing. 2 weeks ago, we had a youth band come through and blew the doors off the place.
Yeah.
The oldest one was probably 19. We just have a great set of praise and worship bands that rotate through up from there, from all over West Kentucky, and they all enjoy coming there. And then about 7:20 is when our lesson will start for the night, our testimony, and those are always really wonderful. A lesson, of course, is comes right out of the book of Celebrate Recovery. It's basically a course that you can work. It's 26 lessons in it. Takes about a year to work through them, and that's the process that we try to get people onto, where they can learn the healthy way to deal with whatever it is in their life.
Yeah.
And then we have small group sharing that'll start somewhere about 8:15 or so, depending on how our schedule runs that night.
Exactly right.
It varies, you know, plus or minus 30 minutes or so.
Yeah. Well, I can see the whole time you're talking there. I can see I'm lonely. I've got these problems, and I'm really lonely. And that's that word, lonely. They won't be lonely if they come to your place.
No, they will
live
not.
band, and
That's correct. You know, one of the first things I remember when I got there was my very first night was about 4 years ago. I walked in there feeling really depressed, really down on my luck, and I saw all of these people running around smiling and laughing. And I thought, boy, if this is a place with people that's got troubles, I want a little bit of the trouble they got, if they can laugh about their troubles and be happy. And sure enough, I got that.
Okay, well, how did you guys get involved in this? Is your wife got involved, or no?
But for a few years back in the early 2000s, I was an addictions counselor, and when I moved back to Paducah, my wife and I started attending Heartland Worship Center, and the pastor there heard I was an addictions counselor, Dr. Joyce, and he said, I would like a program there. Why don't you guys do it? So we checked different things out, and we went to a one-day training for Celebrate Recovery, and we fell in love with it right then. This has been 8 years ago in 2009, and we began to implement that at Heartland's main campus a long time ago. And what happened, though, is my wife got really excited. She says, we got to do this. You know what I mean? And she says, we got to do this. And I'm going, I've done counseling with people who struggle with this. You know, this is going to be a lot of work. I don't know if we want to do this. We got to commit every Friday. And she finally saw the need and the way to meet the need. I don't know of anybody who's ever been to a life situation where they found immediately a way where they could get some hope back. We found folks with divorce, like Alan said, depression. I struggled real bad with anxiety and codependency, which is a buzzword in recovery circles now. And when we began to see how this could really work, it took off. And when people began to come, we saw changes. That's what got me excited. When I saw more change, I did counseling for alcohol and drug chemical dependency types in a secular setting, and there is a little bit of a change, but in this process what we saw was families were changing, marriages restored, and things like that, and I saw it happen quickly. I don't mean like overnight, but I mean I've seen more people helped in this program than I've ever seen in anything in shortest amount of time as this has happened. And the best part about it to me is I'm one of them.
Yeah. Very, very satisfying to see that.
Yes.
Yeah. Nothing more satisfying, I don't think. And then,
Well, you know, for me, I came to Celebrate Recovery not from the seed like he did, but as a part of the process that my wife seemed to put me in. She told me she wasn't coming home, and I felt like my marriage was over with, and I struggled. My main struggle in life was codependency, and that my life revolved around, and my mood revolved around my wife's mood and my wife's happiness. Yeah. And when that was taken away from me, I found myself lost. And I was attending a church service one Sunday morning, and this lady that was familiar with our situation said, you know, you should try Celebrate Recovery. And like I said, the moment I walked in there, you know, I was as depressed as I had been in my entire life. And I walk in there, and this is a place with people with troubles, and I didn't run across many people that looked like they were troubled. And immediately fell in love with it and kept coming back. And by mid-July, this was at the end of May, by mid-July I was fully engulfed. I was in a step study program. I was reading books. I was hooked. I was hooked. You know, and I will say, when I first started coming 4 years ago, we were averaging 60
to 100.
60 to 100. Now we're averaging 160 to 180.
Oh my goodness,
on a
that's
Friday
a big
night.
crowd.
Oh,
That's a big crowd.
Yeah. And that's
huge.
just the adults. We also have a children's program running as well.
And it's completely free. We have a daycare, child care, so that the parents can come and focus on their own recovery, focus on their own help, while their children are learning something different. My children started going there. And, you know, I always say it's never one person that's entering the doors of Celebrate Recovery, because behind that person that we don't see, there's children, there's moms, there's dad, there's brothers, sisters. It's a ripple effect when you get one person to stand on their own 2 feet and learn to deal with life on life's terms with the help of God. It just ripples throughout their family. You know, my kids went from barely getting by in school to graduating with honors and straight A's. It's quite powerful.
Just like Dad, huh?
Just by far. You know, and we also we have a lot of fun at Celebrate. You know, one of our key languages is sarcasm when we're there on a Friday night. You know, because everybody's sick, and who's the sickest of the sick, and we have a really good time. But in that process of having a good time, we also learn a lot. It doesn't have to be a very stressful process, and you're never going to do it alone. There will always be somebody there to walk with you.
160. That's just you know, that caught me off guard. 160, and you're. By the time we look at this show, maybe in the future, you'll have a lot more than that. It sounds like it's growing. It's growing, right?
It is.
In the last, yeah.
Tremendously, yeah.
One of the things we like is we sometimes do special events. About every November, we have called the Outreach, in the West Kentucky Fall Outreach invites us to be a part of theirs on a Friday night, and we go out to the Plex with them. And last year we had like 700 to 1,000 people there hearing about us, and we got a chance to share with them, and another boost in our attendance, of course.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So that was exciting as well.
And you said it's nationwide.
Right. It started out, if anybody knows Rick Warren at Saddleback Church, one of his members there was struggling with alcohol, and he couldn't find Jesus in anything that he was trying to do for his recovery. So he asked Rick if he could design a program, and Rick said yes, and they worked together, and what they worked on became this program. It started in 25 years ago. This is actually in 2016, celebrating the 25th anniversary of Celebrate Recovery. So it's been around a while. Their program is much larger than ours in California. They said they have anywhere from 700 to 800 every Friday, but we're not too upset with a couple hundred.
700, 800, that sounds like a lot of work, really.
Yeah.
We're really pleased with ours, and most everybody knows each other on a first name basis, and it's not so big that you can't get acquainted with everybody that's there on a Friday night.
That's right.
By the time they come 2 or 3 times, then they know a dozen people or more.
Well, that's nice, because I've been in a situation before where I moved someplace. Nobody knew who I was. I didn't know who anybody was, and I wasn't going to have any friends around there. I was pretty sure. I met all my neighbors, didn't care for them too much, and I'm sure they didn't care for me there very much. They didn't speak even English. You know, it was hard. and you're alone, and that's
Isn't that an awkward feeling?
and you got hundreds of people around you, and you're lonely.
That's
And
correct.
you don't have anybody, so yeah.
We will break that shell because we understand it. Everybody that's there was a first timer at some point in there.
That's right.
Celebrate. So we understand that, and we're going to attack you when you get there. Not in a sense of attack, but we're gonna open your shell up and make you feel welcome. If you don't want to feel welcome, that's your own choice. But we're gonna pour love on you as best we can.
You mentioned something earlier that I'd like for you to expand on. Is the lesson? There's a lesson that people.
Yeah, but don't get bogged down in lesson like it's a lot of work.
Oh.
It's a lesson in that we have a workbook we go through. Celebrate Recovery was founded on, born out of the 12 steps that Bill W. wrote. But being a Christian organization, and by the way, non-denominational Christian, we don't fly anybody's flag.
That's good.
We're just biblical Christians. So we were born out of those 12 steps, and they condensed them down to 8 principles. And those 8 principles then that can be applied across the board to every aspect of your life, not just an addiction. It can be anger, trust, depression. There's a list of things you can apply those 8 principles then to. So we have a workbook we can go through, and we have a catchphrase: men work with men, women work with women. So a group of men will get together and they'll work through these lessons. And there, like I said, there's 26 of them. And each lesson has a series of questions that will slowly walk you through the process of change and healthier thinking, because it's about renewing our mind. You know, for me, I was 40 years old and trying to change the way I think and the way I see the world. And that's not an overnight process. That, you know, I'm an old dog and it's hard to teach me a new trick.
I knew you were going to say that.
I could see it coming there.
Yeah,
So,
I was going to ask if you didn't.
yeah. So it takes a little while to work through that process, and it takes help of men who have already done it. So that's what worked for me, and it will work for anybody who will apply themselves to that process. And, you know, like I said, they can come on Friday night and learn a lot more about how to get involved and how to get the in-depth lessons that and work through that book that we have.
And the people that work with them, I guess they call them volunteers, or they've been through this process, most of them
Everybody
already,
has.
so they know how it works, and
Yes,
they're
all of our teachers have been through all 12 steps, the complete step study at least once.
Exactly.
That's a requirement. And then, you know, once you've gone through it once, then you become a teacher, or you become a mentor, you become a leader in it. That's all it takes, is to go work through the book one time, and then generally we've got you hooked by then, and you don't want to leave no way.
Well, I mentioned volunteers, but do you have volunteers that just come and say, "Look, I love this type of thing," or mostly it's people that have been through the program?
Well, it depends on what kind of volunteering it is. Like if they're going to lead a group, we've had them in the program for a while. But if they're going to donate a meal, or they're going to play music for us, or they're going to provide a dessert for after our large group on Friday nights, those kind of folks are always welcome. They help us defray the cost of the program, which is free for everybody who comes, but that
Free?
stuff, yes.
I don't think we've mentioned that yet. Free.
It's absolutely free. We do ask for a small donation if you can afford to for the meal, and then we ask for donations during the large group to help defray the cost of the program, but nobody has to pay anything for it. It's not mandatory.
So, okay, yeah, good. If you come broke, you still get same program, same food.
That's correct.
And food, I didn't mention anything about food because I was a little bit afraid that if you had food or not, but it sounds like you got it.
We start and end with food.
Yeah.
What better program? That gets you into heaven, doesn't it?
That's right.
If you just bring food. So we start with a meal, and then we'll end with, and Jonathan touched on it just a little bit, we have a thing called Crosstalk Cafe at the end of every night where we can mix and mingle. And there's somewhere in there's healthy food. I never can find it, but they'll have chocolate chip cookies and cakes and lemonade, and it's all for free, just so you can mix and mingle.
Big buffet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people who take advantage of that. What we like about that is that it gives people a chance to debrief or wind down from the sharing they've been through and the experience of the night, and make a new friend. That's what it's about, is making a friend who can help you be accountable for your life and help you make better decisions. A lot of folks are struggling to do this alone, and as we've mentioned a few times, and what they find when they come through our doors is they're really nervous the first time. They don't know what to expect. They think it's going to be something like churchy or or they got some preconceived notions when they walk in, and when they walk out, they're going, wow, I had no idea. I thought that this was only for people who had chemical problems, not for people who have depression, anxiety, going through a divorce, anything. People who are feeling helpless or hopeless. And some people say that when they walk through the door, the only thing they struggled with was feeling lonely, and that you can work on there as well.
I know a lot of lonely people. In the business that I'm in, I see it a lot of times.
Yes.
Elderly people, especially, that maybe have outlived their family or their friends, and they're either in a nursing home, assisted living, or even if they're at home, they're at home alone. You know, they don't and can't get out or don't get out or whatever.
It's true.
All this, what you've talked about, has to cost some money.
Like we said, it's still free.
Huh?
It's still free. We pass buckets. Every now and then a church will sponsor. If there are churches who are paying attention to this program or want to help us continue to grow the ministry and expand it, we are always looking for a church to say, we'd like to give you a donation or be a pledge partner or a sponsor church to sponsor it. We'd love that. We also look for host churches for our step studies. Alan was talking about the lessons where they go through the workbook. That's not on Friday. That's a different day of the week. So we're going up about 4 or 5 days a week with step studies and accountability groups like that. So those places need places to meet, those kind of groups. And so sponsor churches for that. We have several in the community that do that now. We're always looking for more.
So you pass the plate, and then if somebody or some organization or some church, band, or just somebody wants to donate food, it's open. You're open for anything.
We prefer the food to be prepared.
Okay.
But we'll cook it if it's donated, not
Kentucky
prepared.
Fried Chicken's good, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Someone wants to donate 20 pizzas, we'll eat them.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah. Now we didn't. I don't remember. I don't think we talked about a headquarters, but I think you talked about the place in California.
Right.
That's where you get all your information and your. I don't know. Tell me what.
Well, headquarters basically is where we get our resources from. They're the ones that set the guidelines for the program. They're the ones that provide the national trainings and give us our way to be consistent. So like if you go to Celebrate Recovery here in Paducah, there are other ones throughout the region we've helped start. We're trying to look always for other locations to do this and help other communities grow this. So we want someone who's come to our Celebrate Recovery program to go to the next Celebrate Recovery program. If they move, if they're traveling and they can pick up right there where they left off with the lesson, and they know how the program works, so it's consistent. It's kind of like when you go to a fast food chain, you expect the same sandwich no matter which restaurant. Celebrate Recovery has a DNA that they want to follow for that.
Yeah.
And so we are trained in that. And that's how we got to be endorsed by the national headquarters as one of the Celebrate Recoveries on their website.
So if I go to move to another city, I probably can Google.
You can go celebraterecovery.com, or on your smartphone, you can go to the App Store. Celebrate Recovery has an app that tells you where meetings are as well. And gives you resources.
That's great.
Yeah.
And one of the things he touched on as far as our DNA, I think it's very important for the viewer to know that we have one thing that we stress, and we work on that every Friday night, and that it's a safe place. It's a safe place for anybody who wants to come to come. You know, we've talked about 180 people that show up on a Friday night. We haven't named one name.
Confidentiality.
Confidentiality is a basic requirement of Celebrate Recovery. Anything you say there will be protected there. Okay. So, and men and women should feel safe that, you know, they're not going to be harassed when they come, but they will be loved. Yeah. And, you know, we don't have a dress code. We don't have any standard requirements other than, you know, to show up one way and expect to leave a little different and a little better.
Now, we mentioned a while ago also who would benefit most from these services. Did we cover that completely?
Well, I can answer that quite simply. Anybody could. If you've ever had any hurt in your life, and I don't know anybody who hasn't had some sort of pain, some sort of struggle, some sort of hang-up, anything that they want to work through, talk about, think about, but they don't want to, you know, pay for a counselor. They don't want to go find someone who's going to tell it to somebody else. If they come to Celebrate Recovery, they're going to find people who listen, who care, who won't judge them. That's one of the things that really inspired me about the program the most, was when I would tell people throughout the week, and I didn't mind my name being associated with it. I said, tell them I'm there. The thing that I liked about it was on Friday night, I could go there and be me. I say let my hair down. I don't have any, but if you had some, you could let your hair down.
More than I got.
Yeah. and you can be yourself. And it didn't matter what you said, even if it was horrible, the things you said that you may have experienced in your life, or somebody might have done to you, or you've done to someone else. And I've heard some atrocities that just other people go, well, I don't want to be a friend with you. And people will still be there for them, love them, and encourage them. One thing I like to say on Fridays, I do the announcements a lot of the times, and I'll say something like, if you said to your employer, hi, I want you to know I'm struggling with alcohol, I'm struggling with sexual addiction, I'm struggling with depression, I don't feel like coming to work, I struggle with anger and I just want to destroy my workplace. They're going to say, that's nice to know you're not going to work here anymore. At Celebrate Recovery, we say, welcome home.
Okay.
You belong here. You're safe here. Yeah. That's what we mean by a safe place.
Yeah. Well, let's one more time. I show up at the door, and what's the first thing that you say? You eat first?
6 o'clock.
And then you have entertainment?
The entertainment starts about 6:45.
And then what?
A lesson or a testimony.
Testimonies, a lot of testimonies probably.
Every other week we'll have a testimony.
Okay.
Yes. And what's really awesome about Celebrate Recovery is at the end of the lesson or testimony, we have what's called the celebrate part of Celebrate Recovery. We celebrate the amount of time people have been working their program, working in recovery. Some people call it clean time. And we'll have anything from 20 years on down to the first day. And people cheer each other, encourage each other, people whooping and hollering. We celebrate it.
Yeah.
It's not just recovery. It gets quite loud, the applause.
Okay, we're down to almost time for the end of the show, so give us your contact information again real quickly.
Be glad to. We are located on Hansen Road, just off of New Holt Road at Faith Center, and we are able to be reached by phone at 270-534-1400 and ask for Christine. And you can also email her at christine@heartlandworship.com. We'd love to have you. We start again on Fridays at 6 if you're hungry, 6:45 if you're not. And you can make a friend and find out you matter and you belong and there's hope still.
Okay, well, thank you both, Jonathan and Allen, for showing up and sharing all this with you. And thank for our viewers for tuning in.
Yes, thank you.
I'm your host, Bud Qualk, and this is Community Service Spotlight.